Alrighty. My message today is Beyond Thanksgiving to Thanks Living. Excuse me. It is an allergy day. As Thanksgiving nears, our thoughts turn to reflect on the things that we're grateful for, the people in our lives, our loved ones, our family, our friends, acquaintances, people we do business with, people that we work with, that we play with, and all the blessings that we have experienced in our lives. But no doubt, this Thanksgiving is going to be different. It's going to feel different this time because many of us are opting to keep loved ones safe by not meeting in person. This means that we are going to be expressing our love, appreciation, and our gratitude in different ways. For some, this means that they're going to make wonderful food and create drop-off services to share this wonderful Thanksgiving meal with loved ones. And you know, I think it's really wonderful that we have a national holiday here in America called Thanksgiving Day. But I also think that it's sad that for many it might be something that is needed in order to slow down enough to recognize and give thanks for the blessings of family, friends, and all the other forms of good that we experience in our life. Heck, we're grateful for being in this country, for being Americans. So this Thursday, because of concern, we are going to be sharing, many of us, sharing our light and love with others via online media. Zoom, family Zooms are going to be very, very popular this Thursday. In fact, I plan on being on one myself. But during this time of change, this time of being challenged in so many ways, I think it's important that we be on the alert, be on the lookout for the small graces that we are blessed with in each new day. The truth is that every day is new, and every day brings a new opportunity to experience divine gifts if we're willing to open our mind and our heart to them. This process of being alert and being on the lookout for our blessings is what I call thanks living. And it goes beyond the act of giving thanks in response to blessings we receive. It is more a process of cultivating the mindset that we are always blessed. That day in, day out, rain or shine, on average days and on fantastic days, on days when we feel sadness and on days when we feel in awe and delighted. It means that we have a consciousness of thank you. We have an attitude, an altitude of gratitude. We call the habit of inwardly acknowledging, accepting, and appreciating the truth of our being, that we are blessed and blessed by Spirit, the essence of God which indwells us and individualizes as us in our world. To me, thanks living means that we choose to bring into each new day the awareness that we are sacred beings, created in the image and likeness of God, that we are loved, that we are surrounded by the light that is God, enfolded by the love of the divine presence in us, and protected by the only presence and power that there is in the world, the power of God. That we accept the truth that we are moved, we are guided and directed by this presence, the power that is all good. Thanks living means to me that we have a recognition that our good is always at hand and that our blessings are waiting on us to get to that level of consciousness, that state of mind where we can be open and receive them. I'd like to begin with a story about a married woman who receives an unexpected gift. Her husband tells the story. After I retired, he said, my wife insisted that I accompany her on her trips to Target. Unfortunately, like most men, I found shopping boring, and I preferred to get in, get stuff, and get out. Equally unfortunate, my wife, like most women, loves to browse. Well, yesterday, my dear wife received the following letter from the local Target. It read, Dear Mrs. Harris, over the past 6 months, your husband has caused quite a commotion in our store. We cannot tolerate this behavior any longer, and we are forced to ban him and you from our store. The letter continued. Our 14 complaints against your husband, Mr. Harris, are listed below and are documented by our video surveillance cameras. On June 15th, he took 24 boxes of condoms and randomly put them in other people's carts when they weren't looking. July 2nd, he set all the alarm clocks in housewares to go off at 5-minute intervals. July 19th, he walked up to a brand new employee and told her in an official tone of voice, Code 3 in housewares, get on it right away, girl. This caused the employee to leave her assigned station and receive a reprimand from her supervisor. That in turn resulted in a grievance from the union. This caused management to lose time, and it cost our company money. We don't even have a Code 3. On August 4th, he went to the service desk and he angered an entire line of waiting customers by trying to put a bag of M&Ms on layaway. Then he moved a caution wet floor sign to a carpeted area. On August 15th, Mr. Harris went to the camping department and he set up a tent. And he told the children shoppers he'd invite them into the tent if they would bring pillows and blankets from the bedding department, which 20 children went and did. On August 23rd, when a clerk asked if they could help him, your husband began crying and screaming, why can't you people just leave me alone? And he had a fit, getting the clerks and the customers upset. The EMTs were called. September 4th, Mr. Harris looked right into the security camera and he used it like a mirror while he picked his nose. September 10th, while handling guns in our hunting department, he asked the clerk where the antidepressants were. October 13th, your husband darted around the store suspiciously while loudly humming the Mission Impossible theme. October 6th, while in the auto department, he practiced his Madonna look, holding different sizes of funnels on his chest. October 18th, Mr. Harris hid within a clothing rack, and when our customers browsed through the rack, he startled them by yelling, pick me, pick me. Then, October 22nd, when an announcement came over the loudspeaker, he fell onto the floor, assumed a fetal position, and screamed, oh no, it's those voices again. And last, but not least, on October 23rd, your husband went into a fitting room and shut the door. He waited a while, then yelled very loudly, hey, there's no toilet paper in here, at which point one of our clerks fainted. All this was in Target's letters explained why Target was banning Mr. and Mrs. Harris from the store. And even though it was obvious that Mrs. Harris used to love shopping at Target, after reading this letter, she was no doubt grateful to realize a new blessing in her life called shopping without Mr. Harris. Being grateful for the good that we have received is easy, but giving thanks for the not-so-good experiences and the seemingly hard things that we experience is much more challenging while we trust that the good is on its way. There's a true story about a woman who was distressed and experiencing a lot of guilt because while she was driving, she didn't notice that a young boy who had been riding his bike along the sidewalk got to the intersection of the street and suddenly, not paying any attention to the traffic light, he darted to cross the street while the traffic was still moving. The boy suddenly left the curb and darted into traffic. This woman's car was right there at that intersection. She couldn't avoid it. So she hit the boy, knocking him clear off his bike into the street. His parents were contacted and were immediately there as the boy was being loaded into an ambulance and taken to the hospital. This woman was distressed. She felt sad and guilty. But she was relieved to learn that the boy was alive and had only suffered a broken leg and arm. She went up to the hospital to visit the boy and his parents. When she got to the boy's room, the parents immediately stopped her at the door of the room and expressed their gratitude to her for accidentally injuring their son. The woman was confused, not understanding why the boy's parents were grateful that she had injured their son, and she didn't know how to respond. The parents had her sit down while they explained to her. What this woman didn't know at the time was that coming up alongside her car on the street, at that very moment when she and the boy collided, a huge truck was on her left side and was coming to that same intersection at the same time that her car bumper hit their son, thus saving his life. The police had told them that if her car had not stopped her son, he would have surely collided with that truck and this would have killed him. The unfortunate accident was something to be grateful for. It was a blessing in disguise, which is defined as something that seems bad or unlucky at first, but is realized later as something good. And I think that this is exactly what the practice of thanksgiving does for us. It's an attitude of mind which helps us to keep looking when a situation seems dire, until we can find the good that's in it. Thanksgiving, the attitude of mind, reminds us that we are loved, that we are blessed and blessed. Teaches us not to give up until we can receive the blessings that we know are in the midst of whatever we're dealing with. I think this is what Jesus means when he said, the kingdom of God is in the midst of you, Luke 17:21. The kingdom where God dwells is in the midst of us. This means that the kingdom of God dwells in the midst of us, in the midst of whatever we are in the midst of. Got it? So this means that God, as good, is right there in the midst of whatever we are dealing with. In the past, I shared one of my own most impactful experiences of blessings in disguise, and an occurrence which turned out to be a moment of grace and an attitude of deep thanksgiving. In 1980, I woke from a realistic dream that which let me know that I was being called to the Unity ministry. But I decided to wait until the time felt right to apply to Unity's ministerial school at Unity Village in Missouri. So in 1982, I know I'm aging myself. I was 29 at that time. I decided to apply to the ministerial school. After filling out numerous forms and answering many deep, heartfelt questions, I was invited to Missouri for 2 sets of interviews at Unity Village. The interviews went well. In fact, I enjoyed the entire process. And of course, being there on home territory at Unity Village, the home of unity in the world. I was feeling confident that I would be accepted into the program in the fall of '82. So I was surprised and at first a bit heartbroken when the letter came letting me know that I had not been chosen as one of the 35 students to attend the program in the fall of 1982. The letter didn't give me any reason other than to encourage me to reapply the following year. It said something like they could only accept 35 students and had to make difficult decisions. So, being encouraged to apply the following year, I did so in 1983, and I was accepted in the fall of that year. Continuing to trust that my inner guidance was true, that I was indeed being called to this ministry, I began looking for the good to be found in having to wait another year to reapply. I felt sure that there must be something good in the fact that I was denied entrance that year. Several things did happen which caused me to be thankful for this denial. During the year, the school changed the program at the ministerial school, and its orientation was quite different. They began to focus on metaphysics and the Bible. New teachers were brought in to replace others in the current program, and the new curriculum would begin in the fall of 1983, the year that I was accepted into Unity School of Christianity. But the experience that most impacted me was the fact that I was home in the fall of 1982 and through until the fall of 1983. I was home and not at Unity Village taking classes because my mother died during this time and she was brought back from the dead. Let me explain what happened. My mother didn't drive, and so one afternoon when I was off work and I didn't have any afternoon or evening classes, she asked me to take her to Beth Israel Hospital so that she could visit a friend that was there. And of course I agreed, and so I took her there and I sat down there in the downstairs lobby, and she went off to visit her friend. And I waited there. But you know, my mother never returned. And we never found out if she ever got to see her friend. I began to get quite concerned when after this long wait, Mom didn't return, and by now the visiting hours were ending, and she still there was no sign of her. And I didn't have a cell phone then, so I had no way to contact her. And I sorely regretted not getting more information from my mom. I didn't even know who she was visiting, what floor this friend was on, or what room. And so I really had no way of finding out what had happened with my mom. And I sat there for a bit, knowing that God's presence is with me, and knowing that I am guided and directed. And I overheard some nurses talking about a woman who was found dead and was resuscitated by an intern who'd found her lying in the hallway on one of the floors. I immediately ran over to get information when I heard someone say the name Banks. It's still all a blur to me, and I don't remember how I initially reconnected with Mom, but I remember being in the room that she was assigned, and the doctor said if this had happened anywhere else but in a hospital, my mother would not have survived because there would not have been enough time to resuscitate her. It was a blessing in disguise. In truth, it was a grand divine plan that placed me where I needed to be for this blessing to be received. And I was home and able to take care of Mom from that day and when she got home to help her recuperate. So I was very thankful that I was denied entrance into Unity's ministerial program when I first applied, because I would have been out there at Unity Village, Missouri, taking classes at this time. I truly believe that when we are making a habit of cultivating a grateful heart and mind, what I call thanks living, that we are able to wait things out in order to see the good, to see the blessings in situations and events, which initially, and sometimes for quite a while, may seem difficult or disappointing or even tragic. Thanks living is something that we can begin cultivating now, which moves us always to the right place, in divine timing, in divine order, and divine love. I believe when we get into the habit of thinking and feeling and expressing our gratitude, even before we see it, we are moving from thanksgiving, which depends on having receive something to thanks living, which doesn't depend on outer conditions. When we are thanks living, we are inhaling and exhaling gratitude for the big and the small goodies of life, for the love, the support, the encouragement that we receive from others. We even find ourselves giving thanks for the challenges, which make us stop, pay attention, change, and grow. Here's a few tenets of thanks living. First, it's an affirmation of goodness. We begin by believing and claiming the truth for ourselves and others. We are loved unconditionally and provided for by the work of divine love. Two, when we are thanks living, we recognize that our good doesn't depend on outer conditions. We understand that the way to see and experience these blessings is for us to place ourselves in the state of mind where we are willing and able to receive these gifts from life. We do this by acknowledging, trusting, and taking it as a matter of our faith that divine love, God, is always working in our lives for the highest and best. In John 5:17, Jesus told the leaders, "My Father is always working to this very day, and I am working." 3, thanks living helps us acknowledge that divine love has many avenues through which to bless us, and that it often works through the contributions that others make in our lives. And so we are grateful for them. Thanks living, or making gratitude a habit, allows us to celebrate the present and helps us appreciate the value of different aspects of our life, even when things seem problematic. We participate more in life because we see the positives that are possible, and this magnifies the pleasure that we experience in our life. Thanks living blocks toxic negative emotions such as envy, regret, resentment, shame, guilt, anger, emotions that can destroy our happiness. When we are thanks living, we are too busy to give our time to focusing on these negative emotions. We focus rather on what Paul suggests in Philippians 4, verse 8, when he writes, "Brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things." People who are thanks living are more resilient in the face of serious trauma, adversity, and suffering than others who do not have the habit of a thankful state of mind. We have the ability to view and interpret negative events from a higher perspective, and in a way that promotes healing. To move beyond thanksgiving to thanks living, we can follow the great Bible formula that Paul gives in 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 16 to 18. "Rejoice always, pray continually, and give thanks in all circumstances." Rejoice always, because this draws our good to us. Pray continuously, because this sets our consciousness to receive. Give thanks in all circumstances, because our thank you seals the deal with Spirit and helps us believe that we have received what we seek. Jesus gives this instruction in Mark 11:24. "Therefore I tell you," he said, "whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." Please note that in Paul's instruction, we don't have to give thanks for every circumstance, but we are told to give thanks in all circumstances. This makes a big difference. We can choose what to be thankful for. For example, we don't have to give thanks that the woman's car struck and injured the little boy, but we can be thankful that the boy survived and was healing. We can do this. We can be thanks living when we remember the equation. God is in the midst of us, and therefore God is in the midst of our experiences. And this means that good, the elongated expression of God, is also present. Happy thanks living to you this Thursday and every new day. God bless you.